Welcome to the Summerhill Vineyard. It is September 14th. We are in the middle of harvest. Things are in full swing. Today we are going to walk through our estate vineyard and take some grape samples to see how they're progressing, how close to harvest they are, and determine if they're ready to bring in or if they need a little more time on the vine. So we're in our block of Riesling. This is all 21B clone that was planted in 1978 as part of a pilot project and a test project at the Geisenheim. A gentleman named Dr. Becker planted these vines to see if vinifera would grow in the valley. So these are the oldest vinifera in the Okanagan, which is super cool. We're really lucky to work with them. So when the fruit is getting close to ripe, I go in and I'll cut off samples. I like to do a whole cluster test. I take a sample from throughout the block. I want to get a good idea of top of the block, bottom of the block, middle of the block. I like to do whole cluster sampling because all the grapes in this cluster are at different points of maturity, and so doing a whole cluster gives us a great idea of what the juice is going to look like. On top of grabbing samples to take back to the lab to get some lab analysis on, the most important part of any grape sampling is the taste. Doesn't matter what the numbers look like. If it doesn't taste how we want it to taste, it needs to hang on the vine a little bit longer. These are starting to get some sugar. You can taste it, starting to taste those Riesling notes, but it's not quite where I want it. So we'll get some samples to see how it's maturing, but this needs another couple weeks before we bring it all in.
So Michael, what kind of wine are you planning to make from this particular block of grapes this year?
So this block will go into our 2021 estate grown biodynamic Riesling. So we'll hand harvest it, we'll destem it, we'll press it off in the press. The juice will go into tank where we'll let Mother Nature do the rest. So it'll be a beautiful pure form of what our vineyard and what this Riesling tastes like.
All right, let's keep going. Awesome. What's next?
Awesome. Well, let's head down to the Muscat. That's probably the next thing that we'll be harvesting. So I'm really curious to see how it tastes right now. Behind me, you may notice some vines without fruit. This is our Pinot Meunier block that has already been hand harvested for sparkling wine. So this is what the vines look like after the crews come in and picked all the fruit.
And there is the glorious Muscat right there.
And then we move into the Muscat. Secretly, this may be my favorite block. I love sampling Muscat because the fruit tastes so delicious. So just like in the Riesling, we'll taste a couple samples and see how it's tasting.
So what do you look for when you make this particular wine, the estate grown biodynamic Muscat? What kind of balance and what are you hoping to achieve?
Muscat has beautiful acid. It's always really bright, and so I want to make sure there's enough sugar in there that it balances out the acid, that it becomes a balanced wine that's quite enjoyable. Muscat also has these beautiful perfumey kind of floral orange blossom notes, and so for me it's really important that fruit shines, that those floral notes shine, but when you take a sip it's not super acidic, it's not super sweet, that it has that beautiful balance. So right now we're going through just to make sure that there's enough sugar in the grapes and the acid is low enough that we can make a beautifully balanced wine.
Yeah, and that, where do you think?
It's getting darn close. There's still a little bit more acid than I would like, but I think in another week, depending on Mother Nature and how much sun we get, this will be coming in very soon. Can't stop eating it, it's delicious.
Yeah, and you can see the Muscat's growing on fertile ground at the bottom of our vineyard, and we got a nice healthy crop load on here, so this is going to be a great biodynamic wine. What do you think? How's the flavor developing in the Gruner Veltliner?
It's coming along. Right now I'm getting kind of sugar and acid, which is the first thing we get when they start to mature. And the flavors are starting to develop, getting a little bit of that white pepper kind of celery note, but they still need some more time. They're not as flavorful or as exciting as I would like just yet. So Probably another couple weeks and it'll be ready to go.
The beautiful color of those grapes.
They are a pretty color. I love how Gewurz looks before we harvest it. Starting to get some lychee, starting to get a little rose petal, but again, like some of the other blocks, just needs a little more time. But it's mid-September, so we've got enough time to let it hang and get a little more sun and a little more flavor, and this is going to make a beautiful biodynamic wine this year. All right, so we're now at the top of the vineyard, which I think is one of the most beautiful spots on our whole property, and grows the nicest fruit of the entire vineyard. And this block here, block 10, is an Epernay clone that Stephen Sipes, proprietor of Summerhill, brought back from France with him and planted in the late 80s when he purchased the property. And it makes some absolutely stunning wines. If you've had our Sipes Gabriel in the past, it came from this block. If you've had our biodynamic Chardonnay, our estate-grown Chardonnay, it also came from this block. It is absolutely stunning, so let's go check it out. These are absolutely beautiful. Nice acid. Fruit starting to show up. This will be absolutely stunning wine this year. I'm really excited to bring it in and do the biodynamic ferment on it and put a little of it into smoke puncheons and see where it goes. But if every grape could taste this pretty, I'd be a very happy winemaker.
Ooh, how much sugar are you looking for when you want this to ferment?
For the table wine, we want it around 23 brix, or about 23% sugar. When it gets in that range, we start looking at the acids as well to make sure that we get a nice balance. But any riper than that, I find that the alcohol becomes a little bit too pronounced. So we'll keep an eye on it, and once it hits in that 22, 23, 24 range, we'll bring it in and ferment it.
What do you think alcohol that turns into typically?
That should be in the neighborhood of 12.5 to 13.5, which should give it a nice balance.
So we're just passing by the rest of the Chard. We got I think around 10 acres actually. This block is one of the larger blocks on the vineyard, and really makes some of those beautiful wine. Yeah, hey Michael, this antelope brush is, I think this is the farthest north that I think it's known to grow. This is right here at Summerhill Vineyard. It grows more in the South Valley, but here it is in Kelowna.
So now we're above block 15, 16, closer towards the winery than we were. We're kind of headed back. Gonna take the sample that we pulled, go smash it all up, run some lab results, and see where we're at and see how close to harvest. So thank you for joining us in the vineyard. We look forward to you enjoying the wines that we produce from these blocks. So cheers.